This is a brand new piece of 304 stainless steel exhaust tubing. And today, we're gonna ruin it. All right, so what are we gonna do to our poor pretty little pipe here that is going to ruin it? We're gonna do all sorts of torture testing to it. We're basically gonna be as inappropriate with this thing as absolutely possible. We're gonna do all the no-nos on this one section of pipe and we're gonna label it. Then we're gonna force corrosion on it and see what happens. There's a lot of things that I'm curious about. Like one, using a stainless steel wire wheel, except using it on steel first and then putting it on the stainless. That is a huge no-no. Would it actually matter? We're gonna find out. Also, using a steel wire wheel on stainless. I'm pretty sure that's not gonna fare too well for this piece of pipe, but who knows? I don't know. Maybe it'll be just fine. We're also gonna try tacking. We'll put a cut in it, we'll tack it with steel, and then we'll weld over it with stainless and see if it goes away. Or if we're gonna have a little bleedy spot where that steel was. That's my guess, but I don't know. I've never actually tried it. So we're gonna find out. And I'm just gonna keep coming up with all sorts of ideas and we'll just work our way down this pipe and just do all the inappropriate crap, labeling it and documenting it on the way. Then we'll rust it and we'll see what happens. So let's get going. First with our steel wire wheel, right here. We got a nice little piece there. Looks fine now. Has a little bit of discoloration where I heated it a little bit, but we're gonna mark that steel wire wheel. Now this here is a stainless steel wire wheel, and I'm contaminating it right now on normal steel. I thought I did a straight line. It's not very straight. All right, so now I'm gonna dirty up a flapper wheel on some steel. We'll go ahead and give it a little polish, mark that. Here's a hard wheel. I don't know why you'd ever use a hard wheel on stainless steel, but maybe for cutting it, and you don't really want to use contaminated cutting wheels either. Now I'm gonna shoot some sparks at it. That's something that happens all the time, so we're gonna see if that leaves a mark. Now I'm gonna put some cuts in it so we can try different welds and see what we get away with welds. This very first one, I'm just gonna weld it all the way with MIG. That's just steel wire, so obviously we know what that's gonna look like. Then these next three, I'm going to tack in the center, and then we're gonna do different levels of TIG welding over top of them, or welding to them, and just see what we can get away with here. I don't think we can get away with any of them, but we're gonna see. Just for science, I guess. This last one here, I'm just welding it solid with TIG rod, but we do have a contaminated tungsten, and I didn't take any time to do any of this. I just did them very, very quickly. I wasn't really worried about what they look like, but you can make fun of me for them if you want later, because they don't look very good. All right, now I'm just gonna hit it with a stainless steel wire brush that I've used quite a bit on steel, and I even just hit it right before that. This is a good one. This is a real world scenario. I'm shooting sparks all over it. I'm gonna polish half of them off with a brand new Scotch wheel, and then I'll leave the other half. We'll know what they'll look like, but I'm gonna leave the other half. But I'm gonna see if you can actually get those off, because I don't think you actually can. So here is where I shot grinding sparks at it. You know, I don't know if I can feel them or not, but I did. That's where I MIG welded it, just with mild steel instead of stainless. That's where I tacked it, and I went over the tack with a TIG welder. That's where I stopped at either side of it, just in case, for some reason, it's actually working to go over it. Don't judge my TIG welds, they're pretty terrible. This is where I ground the tack out before I welded over it, and then this is where I just welded it with no tack whatsoever, but it's a contaminated tungsten. BBs. That's where I sanded them off. That was mild steel BBs that were on there, and I sanded them off with a brand new little Scotch pad thing. That's where I left the BBs on there, so those are mild steel BBs. So now we get down to here. I meant to do this all on the same side. This is the contaminated wire brush that I've been using on steel, and I just used it on stainless steel by hand. See if that did anything. This is the hard grinder that's contaminated with steel. That's the flap wheel that's contaminated with steel. This is the stainless steel wire that's contaminated with steel, and that's just the steel wire wheel right there. So let's get to corroding this thing and let's see what happens. All right, so this solution is just hydrogen peroxide, vinegar, and salt. And I think if we would have not used salt, it might have been a little bit better to watch, because the solids of the salt kind of make it annoying because it builds up on the surface. The problem is it wouldn't rust as fast. So 6 of one, half a dozen the other, I guess. Okay, so here is where I was shooting sparks at it, and I actually don't see I don't see anything from the sparks that I was shooting at it, but I'm sure that's probably not a good thing. But as of now, I don't really see any sparks growing, but they also didn't really stick to it, so I wasn't really feeling them. This is steel MIG, and it's definitely rusting. This is the TIG welding where I welded over the tack, that I tacked it with MIG, and then I welded over it, and you can definitely see the steel still in the center. This is where I went to either side, and obviously you can still see the steel. This one is where I ground the steel out. Now this one's questionable whether I'm seeing it or not. I think it's rusting, but I'm going to do one more test with all these welds before we confirm that you can actually do that and get away with it. I still wouldn't recommend doing it, but we'll see if we got away with it in this situation. And then this is my really bad weld where I just really quickly welded a TIG weld over the seam to fill it. Now this is where I sanded BBs off that I shot on there with MIG. So this is very important. Once you do this, I don't think you can get rid of it. You can see that there. It's bleeding like crazy, and I polished those off with a brand new wheel, and it's pretty much ruined. The stainless steel is pretty much ruined. So obviously it's not good right there either. Now right here is where I hit it with a manual wire brush. I don't really see any evidence of it, but I don't think I was really getting through the glossiness of it either. So I think the shine of the pipe kind of saved it. The hard grinding wheel, definitely rusting. The flapper wheel that was contaminated, definitely rusting. The contaminated stainless wire wheel, I'm kind of surprised about this one. This is one I thought you might be able to get away with, and definitely not. It's actually worse than the flapper wheel. And then the steel is just as bad as our control. I mean, we completely destroyed the stainless steel right there. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with the pure stainless steel weld, but only contaminated tungsten. I'm going to just sand this off real quick. I'm not going to do a good job. I just want to sand it so it's shiny again. And I'm going to do that and work my way this way. And then we're going to re-rust this area because I want to get a better definition of where the rust is and what we got away with, because it almost looks like we got away with it where we sanded the tack mostly out and welded over it, but I don't want to confirm that yet. These two I definitely didn't obviously get the steel out of it, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that one's going to rust. All right, there's our final results. Running over it definitely didn't help. Obviously that didn't work. Going up to it obviously is worse, which I was just wanting the contrast of the two. Grinding it out, you know, it kind of worked, except it didn't, because it looks like it's like leaching out still from in there. So I don't think that actually worked. The contaminated tungsten, it doesn't really look any different than the rest of the pipe. This pipe is only 304 stainless, so it's all of it starting to rust a little bit, but it really doesn't look too much worse than this. In fact, the weld itself, because my rod is probably more pure than this, that actually is the least rusty spot, and I don't know if you can see the contrast there, but just the little weld itself is the least rusty of everything. And then obviously we have our BBs. That's super frustrating. We couldn't get those off of there. Anyway, I think it's pretty cool. I got to pick this up before I rot my floor out. I don't know if it would or not, but I don't want to find out. So anyway, I hope that helps. I hope you found it interesting, and we'll see you on the next one.